Hello, Artsy Friends. I am so excited because I get to share with you the latest revival collection. This is the tube set from Winsor and Newton of Professional Watercolor. And on the box, it shows you the colors that are included in here, but let's break them open and check it out. Oh my goodness, these are 5 milliliter. Are they 5 milliliter? Let's see. It says 5 milliliter tubes. And we've got Fields Orange, Cinnabar Green. This is the one that I'm most excited about. Tyrian Purple, although that one should be very exciting as well. Ultramarine Ash, which is a super light blue. A Mineral Gray, and then an Ostwald Grey. Let's put these out in the tray. This is just a Corel tray. I like it because it's open, wide open, so it makes it really easy for me to put out my paints. Here we go. So the next step is that we are going to swatch these in my favorite painter's color diary. This is the Watercolor Painter's Color Diary, 100% cotton paper, 9x12. So I am going to find my first sheet is Winsor and Newton, and we're going to go ahead and swatch these out. Okay, let's go ahead and swatch these revival colors. I'm using a Princeton long round number 6 to do the swatching with. Let's get this beautiful Fields Orange. It's quite a very saturated orange, no doubt there. And we're going to add some more water to it. Wow, it looks like it's staining too. Quite staining. I'll pick some up with a paper towel and see how that does. Nice, 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 nice. Now it is transparent. All of these I would expect are going to be transparent, although the Cinnabar green may be semi-transparent just because of the nature of Cinnabar. And the Fields Orange is a P067 pigment. Let's take a look at the Cinnabar green. It's probably pretty close to transparent. Once it dries, I bet it's going to be transparent. I'm going to put a little more water in there. Let's see what happens when we draw it out. Lots of pigment in that. Again, let's pick some of it up. There you go. Okay, the next one. Oh, and the Cinnabar green is PY138 and PG36. Those colors are on the tube. You'll find it on the back here. It tells you the pigment number, and it also tells you the transparency, whether it's transparent, semi-transparent, or opaque. And then here on the back of the packaging, it also tells you the pigment numbers in each one of the color swatches on the back. Let's take that green is, wow, it's definitely an in-your-face green, isn't it? We're going to mix some of these colors together to see what different colors we can get by mixing them. This one is so dark and it covers so well. I would say that's a semi-transparent. I'm adding water here. The Tyrian purple, wow, super staining. And it is a PV for violet, PV37, and a PR202, which is a pigment red. Let's see what it looks like. Oh my gosh, it stains so much. So much! Lots of staining there with the purple. Oh, I'm really excited about this Ash Ultramarine. It looks like you have to use a lot of it, but it's supposed to be super pale, which it absolutely is. And let's bring that in. Wow. You know what? I just love how subtle this color is. Let's put some more water on there. Yes, it's a barely there color. And we're going to pick some of it up, but I think when I pick it up, we may end up with, yeah, nothing. It all picks up, so it does not stain. Let's pull that back out. And let's go to that mineral gray next, but the Ultramarine Ash is a PG23 and a PB29, so pigment blue 29. Now we've got the mineral gray. The mineral gray is a PBK for pigment black 19, PW5, which I believe is zinc white, and a PB29. So that's pigment blue, which interestingly is the same pigment blue that's in the Ultramarine Ash. Let's pull this. It seems to be a rather dry pigment, so you need a lot more water with this pigment to make it flow. Okay, let's try lifting it and see what happens. Most of it comes up. There's barely a staining, but if you wanted just a very subtle gray, if you pull some of that color back up, that'll give you a nice subtle gray. And then the last one is the Ostwald Grey. It's PBK 6, PW5. So that's the black, the zinc white, and PY 42. So here we go. Let's see what this one looks like. Wow. Okay. This one may be an opaque. It appears to be opaque. We won't know for sure until it's dry, but it looks quite opaque. It's covering that black line right now. Let's add, this is a very warm gray from what it appears right here. Well, it would be because it has PY, which is a yellow 42 in it. Let's lift some of that out and see what we get. Nice. We have a little bit of staining there, which is fabulous. I love that. So you get a light stain here and a medium stain here. Let's pull some of that back down. Fantastic. I'm going to pull up just a little bit more of that so I can see the contrast there. So that is our swatching. Now, for what I want to do in terms of a sample painting, I know I'm going to need a little bit of yellow in order to mix in with these. So what I've done is I grabbed the Winsor and Newton that I have. I have a Winsor and Newton Cotman Gamboge hue. So Gamboge is a type of yellow. And I'm going to put that over here because when I'm painting, I'm going to want to lighten that orange. I'm going to want to adjust the green. I may want to create a brown, so I would mix the yellow together with the purple. We'll hold this off to the side because I may need more of that. But I felt like this palette needed a little bit of yellow in it in order to do the things that I want to do with it. So let's go ahead and paint a sample painting. Before we start the sample painting, let's do a couple of color mixes. I like to use this US Art Supply watercolor paper. These come in packs of 3, which are awesome. They're very economical. I'll put a link to it in the description of the video. And this is a 140-pound cold press watercolor paper. What's nice is one side is quite textured and the other side is more smooth. So sometimes I use the textured side and sometimes I use the smooth side to work on. Let's go ahead then with this 140-pound paper and do a little bit of just color mixing to see what some of the combinations are going to give us. So just some yellow or some orange and a little bit of that green just to see what happens there. So that definitely knocked down the green so that the green is not so bright. I really like that. I like that a lot because often we need to mute down our colors, and it looks like that's going to do a great job mixing those two together to get more of an olive color. Let's do the purple. Let's take some of the orange here and a little bit of the purple. Hee hee. This is going to be fun. So a little bit of the orange and a little bit more of the purple. And just see what happens. Okay, it turns into sort of a cranberry, which is awesome. I love that. Love that. That gives us a sort of blueberry, cranberry kind of muted reddish color. Now this, what I'm working in is a mini butcher tray, and I love these because they're so easy to clean out and they clean completely. And then let's try the green, the purple again with some of the green. What the heck? Let's just give it a try. I love purple and green next to each other, but I don't normally mix them together to see what happens. Let's do that. A little bit more purple just to see what we get. Seems to darken it. Okay, now that's too much purple, right? But what's nice is that is a, again, darker, muted version of purple, isn't it? It's almost a gray purple. That's kind of fun. Let's add a little more green to it, though, and see what happens. So that we get a dark version of the green. Nice. That almost looks like a green that you could use for pines, doesn't it? For pine trees or something. Yeah, that's a nice, again, muted green, but something perfect for doing pines, pine trees, pine needles. Let's do some pine needles here like this, right? If I were doing a pine tree and I wanted to do some pine needles, that's great. Great color for that. So that was the Cinnabar green together with the Tyrian purple. Love that. Love, love, love that. All right, let's take a look at that ash. I'm going to set this aside because I really love this color. And I'm actually going to grab another one. I have a little collection next to me here. So I'm going to grab another one of these. And this ash is just so beautiful. This blue ash, right? Now, blue is the opposite of orange on the color wheel. So when I put the two together, this ash should mute the orange a little bit. Let's see what happens here. It does. So that way the orange is not quite so crazy. If you want to mute it down, you just add some of that ash. Now I can also, I would expect, I can go ahead and use the grays to mute it down as well. So let's clean this out and just take the orange with the grays and see what happens. Aren't these great? Okay. So let's just take the orange here, which is so gorgeous and bright, right? So here's the orange just by itself, so you can see how bright the orange is compared to how dull this orange is where I added that ash ultramarine. Now we're going to add that mineral gray to the orange and see what happens. Let's see what happens here. Yeah, that is muting the orange very quickly, but in kind of a different, almost making it a brown. Interesting. Okay, a little bit different than when we added the blue. Interesting, the ash blue is very dry. It's a very dry pigment, and so it made a dry mix here. Interesting. Okay, and let's clean this out again and add the orange with that darker gray, the warm gray. So the warm gray should play very nicely with it. And it should just darken it without muting it too much. Okay, let's grab a little bit of that gray. Nice. Oh, look at that. Okay, now we have the bark of a pine tree right there. Just like that. I love it. Would you have expected that? I don't know. I would not have expected that. That's the Ostwald Grey together with that Fields Orange. I love that brown. So let's do this. If you're needing a quickie burnt sienna or something. That looks like it might have just done it right there. Or a Van Dyke brown. It looks closer to a Van Dyke brown. That is awesome. Okay, so if we wanted to do a pine tree, we could just get the base of the pine tree here. A couple of branches coming off, right? Another branch back here. I like doing pine trees. I like there's something about a pine tree. And then let's pick up some of that gorgeous green that we made earlier that I said would look really good as pine needles. So let's do that. And then we're going to put some pine needles on here. Just because I can, I'm here. Might as well, sort of put it to the test. Right? Gorgeous. And more over here. I'm using a dagger brush, so I like that the dagger brush, this is from Christy Rice, and I like that the dagger brush has that sharp edge to it right here, but you can also get broad strokes out of a dagger brush. So then we'll put a little bit more here. Wow. Who knew? I would not have imagined that out of this mix. And that's why we test it, right? That's why we do the tests, so that we can find out what the possibilities are. Then I go back and I make notations on my notebook as to what the mixes were, so that I know what to do to recreate them. Ooh, I am loving that. That is so much fun, isn't it? Thank you. Love that. Love, love, love that. Okay, so let's go ahead then. Oh, what other mixes do we want to do? That was awesome, mixing this dark gray with the orange. Let's mix the dark gray with the green and see what happens. I think that'll be fun. Okay, let's get rid of this. I know, it's a sin, right? To get rid of all that beautiful color. But let's do it. Let's do it. Oh, here we go. And now let's try the green with that warm gray, because the green is is a cooler color. So we've got sort of a cool green going here. And what happens when we whack it with some of this warm gray? Okay. Well, we've got ourselves a dark green again. There we go. So it's more muted than this green that was the combination of the purple and the green there. Let's see. It's similar. Almost. It's not quite as dense, but that's because that purple is very dense. But it's quite a nice muted version of that. Let's put some of those in here. So it's a little bit different version of that. Very similar, but just a little more muted. That's okay. Muted is okay. Let's see here. They look very similar. Okay. And then I want to try the green with the light gray and see what happens there. Let's try it with the light gray, because the light gray, which is the mineral gray, has a green undertone to it, and it's also cool, similar to that green. So let us clean this up and try that mix and see what happens. Hopefully it just barely knocks down the brightness of the green. So let's take some of the green. I love the Cinnabar green, because I like having a bright color to start with, and then it's a lot easier to get various tones of bringing it down, muting it, if you start with a bright color. See, it didn't change the tone of it very much, that gray, because they're both cool. So it barely brought the color down from that bright green. Very close. Let's just swatch it a little bit so you can see. Yes, all it did was bring the tone down a little bit of the bright green. Let's put the bright green next to it so you can see what it looks like straight out of the tube. Let's get some of the green there. See, this green straight out of the tube almost looks artificial when you look at it like that. It's bright. I love it. But if you want to tone it down, you've got a beautiful gray, cool gray here to barely tone it down. You've got the warm gray here to much more mute it. And who knew you can also pop in the purple here and get this crazy dark, dark, dark color that is just gorgeous. All right, and I love this. I love this pale green that came from the orange and the green. I think that looks fabulous. Fantastic. Okay, let's, with what we've learned, let's take some of the yellow. And I want to see what the yellow does to these colors. So let's grab that. Let's grab some of the gamboge, which is a beautiful yellow tone. Okay, gamboge. It looks like we're getting a very light yellow-green. I was hoping that this yellow would tone down the artificialness of that Cinnabar green, and it does. It makes it look much more like new growth when you add the new gamboge. So when you add a little bit of a good yellow to it, it gives you something that looks more like a leaf green, new growth leaf green. There we go. Much brighter. So here's the bright with the yellow in it compared to the one straight out of the tube. It's got a warmer undertone and it looks more like new growth on leaves instead of being something that looks warm, looks more like winter time there. There we go. Fab. Yes, that's the yellow in there. But what happens when we add the yellow to the orange? I'm going to have to clean some of that green out of there, aren't I? Because some of the green mixed in with it. There we go. And we will get this out of here. I love that, though. I like the way that the yellow tones down the artificialness of the Cinnabar. Don't get me wrong. I love the Cinnabar right out of the tube. But if you want to do landscapey kind of things, you may want to tone it down by adding some yellow to it. Okay, let's take the orange. Uh-oh, there's some green in there. It's okay. It's okay. That's what happens, right? You put your colors in something like this and they're going to sort of blend with each other. Okay, so here's the new gamboge. Yeah. So it's orange, but again, it's not that almost artificial looking orange. It is a better orange. It's a more muted, more natural orange when you put the warmth of the new gamboge in there. Okay, fantastic. Now I kind of have a lay of the land of what the colors are doing. Let's go ahead and paint a goldfish under the water with some kelp or reeds near it. Thanks for watching this video. I look forward to your comments. Please like the video and subscribe.